All right, Lynnell is here now for a proper Overreaction Tuesday here on this Wednesday, kind of our Tuesday. Oh, Anthony, do we put that on the fine board? That's a cough from Lynnell that there's no mic turned off there. That's a fine in
Is that a
show.
part of the system?
That is how the fine system originated, because Anthony refused to turn off his microphone when coughing, which is hilarious because his microphone spends 97% of the show off.
For him to cough on air is hilarious. But blame him once again, because why am I coughing? Because I'm having a real respiratory issue.
From running outside in the 15 degrees to get his backpack that he forgot?
Yes.
My thing is, Lynnell, I don't think you should be tired or gassed from, running.
It's not about being I'm actually going to come to Lynnell's defense here, which is something that nobody anticipated happening.
Heel of the year, people.
The cold air of it being 15 degrees and the temperature change of coming back inside, that's what meant, like, the out of breath. Sorry, bro, I got nothing for you. The respiratory coughing of the temperature change, that I understand.
Is this an overreaction? It's what I'm actually
call this overreaction. The irony in all of this is hilarious. But we're here. We made it, and I'm breathing a wee bit better.
A wee bit. All right. Before we get too incredibly sidetracked, let's get to some takes, if you will. So John Keim did his job today, caught up with Ron Rivera. First comments from Rivera publicly since being fired. There's some interesting, I think, things that kind of come out of it. Main takeaways for those that haven't seen the article yet. He wants to continue coaching, even if it's as a defensive coordinator. He kind of knows he's not getting a head coaching job. Hasn't been requested for any interviews. Yeah. But would be willing to coach, even if it's as a DC or maybe even a position coach. And then he reflected on decisions he made around Howell, and did say he thinks the organization, the Commanders, are in a great spot with Josh Harris. Thinks he runs a great operation. Those are kind of the three big things that I took away. Which of those or something else is most interesting to you and has you fired up?
First of all, I just want to, anyone out there who is an aspiring journalist, when you are, I think John Keim was probably the nicest to Ron Rivera on the beat all year long. I think he was probably the most respectful to him all year long.
Yeah,
he's the one that got the one-on-one.
More than nice.
Well, yeah,
right?
Nice is like he wasn't doing his job, but it's not what I'm saying. He was the most respectful of Ron, and I think that's why he was granted that one-on-one that no one else has been granted. So shout out to John Keim for that. The other thing that I took away from that is there's this narrative that's been running around that Ron didn't get or didn't have the opportunity to focus on just football because he was dealing with so many other things. I buy it, but I don't know how much I buy it. It feels like it's being used as an excuse to this point. I'm kind of getting sick and tired of hearing about it. It's annoying. And then the second thing that I took away, the admission of guilt about quarterback to me was damning, and I think it's irresponsible on Ron's behalf, because not only did his negligent decision get himself fired, he got probably stunted the growth of Sam Howell, and Eric Bieniemy's not looking very good coming out of all of this. My whole thing, as we talked about off air, Craig, especially after reading Keim and Rivera's back and forth, Ron Rivera starting Sam Howell was to save his own ass, and we knew that. A lot of us did. But I think Eric Bieniemy, when he was hired, there's no way you're telling me he came in here knowing he was going to have to start Sam Howell. And I don't have any reporting on this. This is just pure speculation on my behalf. Think about Eric's perspective and why he came to Washington. One, to get a bump in title. He's assistant head coach. But all of this was supposed to prime him to be a head coach down the line. How does he get that opportunity from his offense functioning the best? And we can all say this honestly, the offense probably would have functioned better under Jacoby simply because he's a veteran, not Sam, who had 11 career completions heading into the year. So I don't think he ever wanted to go with Sam Howell.
See, that's where I disagree. I don't know that he never wanted to go with Sam Howell. I think there was probably a realization at some point the offense would operate better, but the best thing for the organization was to go for broke on Sam. Where they were. Now, if you want to rewind further and try to dissect different decisions, and they tried to make some different ones. They tried to trade for Stafford. They tried to trade for Russell Wilson. One of those, it sucks it didn't work. One of those, it's great it didn't work. That's the nature of the NFL.
For sure.
And for a litany of reasons at the time, with everything going on with the Oregon Dan, like they never had a shot at either of those dudes. So that is what it is, and it's beyond Ron's control. Again, he also signed up to be here, and he should have known better. And it very much seems like he didn't. So there's that.
For sure.
But I like my bigger issue with what they did at quarterback this year was not who they chose. It is when they made the choice, how they chose to use him, and with the offense that they put him in, and all of that. And that is on Eric, but it's also very much on Ron.
No, he's a team builder. Yeah.
Well, it's not even the team. Like, again, the offensive line, personnel-wise, was better than people realized. It was set up to fail. It's a good run-blocking offensive line that was asked to drop back pass protect 30 times a game with a almost rookie quarterback who doesn't have a great feel for the pocket and takes a bunch of sacks. Like, your offensive line is going to look like trash, and so is your quarterback if that's your game plan. So why is that your game plan? And if your offensive coordinator has that as your game plan, you as a head coach need to, like, really dig deep and be like, hey, I think that we probably should not do this way. Like, Ron doesn't get exempt from that. He doesn't go, well, I just turned the offense over to Eric. That's not head coaching. That's not even managing. That's not delegating.
No.
That is absconding your responsibility. Ooh. I think I use absconding right there.
I'm about to say, I like that word, absconding.
It's just saying, like, not my problem. And it's like, yeah, it is. You're the head coach, bro.
Was it passing the buck?
Yeah, the other thing that I think, kind of more to your first point is, I do believe him when he says he did more managing and was dealing with other stuff and not coaching until the final 5 weeks. But he set up the structure. He set up the system. He's in charge of everything. Yeah. If you want to do more coaching, you need to either pass off the responsibilities that you initially were given to Martin Mayhew and Marty Herney and the personnel department and get yourself out of it, and you can do it quietly. Like, you don't need to go to Dan Snyder and be like, hey, I'm doing less work. You could probably pay me less.
Right.
Like, you just be like, hey, I think we're going to reorganize some things. I need to spend more time focusing on the coaching. So, Martin, you're gonna pick up the slack. Don't ask me about this stuff anymore. I trust you. That's why we hired you. And before we do anything crazy, you better come consult me. But, like, come consult me as the head coach. And so he set up the system. You can't complain about the system when you're the dude in charge of the system. That would be my big thing. That kind of encompasses all of it.
Yeah,
right?
And I think it's the number one problem with how they've addressed quarterback over the last several years. And then this year was like the nail in the coffin in terms of the negligence that they've shown. I'll raise you another team in the NFC that has a second-year quarterback. Atlanta did everything in their power to ensure Desmond Ridder would work out, including using their 2 richest draft picks this year on offensive weapons to help further his development. Washington did the exact opposite. When did we draft our first offensive player? Was it round 4? Did they go 3 straight defense, or did they go?
Who was their third rounder this year?
Was rookie? Was it Stromberg the third rounder?
Yeah, Stromberg was the third rounder. Then Daniels was the fourth.
Yeah, so I give him credit. And Daniels they missed completely on their evaluation.
Well, we don't even know what he is because he didn't even make it into the season. He didn't make it out of training camp.
Yeah,
but
I think
didn't look good in training camp.
I think they had him have surgery so he could have sort of like a red shirt year and allow him to get stronger. He probably could have came back, but they knew they whiffed on the pick.
But just like to your point, like you use a third rounder on Stromberg to be your a kind of pick that you take a starting center with.
Yes.
After signing Nick Gates,
it doesn't make sense. That's the big takeaway for me in the 5 years around or the 4 years around. Nothing ever made sense. And then not only did you not use your 2 richest draft picks to help the quarterback, to your point, and I don't know how much this is on Eric and how much this is on Ron. Eric's the play caller, obviously, so he's going to get a brunt of it. But who's to say Ron wasn't like, look, we got to throw the ball a lot to see what this kid has. We need to know what he is. Let's load him up and then dial it back, which if you go back to August, that was universally the plan. Like they were saying that in August that was the plan, to load him up and then dial it back. But when they said load it up, I think we thought it was from probably a terminology standpoint, not amount of dropbacks.
Yeah, I mean, from everything that we've all ever heard, and maybe this was Ron overcorrecting from his miscue with Eric and the kind of the media narrative in training camp, whatever. But it very much seemed like once Eric got here, anything that touched the offense, it's the Lion King. Anything the light touches is yours.
Yeah.
Anything the offense touches is yours. Yeah. And there was like no oversight of it outside of, hey, Howell's going to be the guy. And again, I refuse to let revisionist history happen. Which means multiple things at once, which is hard for people to wrap their mind around, but it is what it is. There was nothing that happened in the way that the quarterback competition happened that meant that Sam Howell shouldn't start. Sam had a good enough camp, and Jacoby did not have some overwhelmingly brilliant camp.
Craig, you can't use the word competition.
But that was going to be part 2 of what I was going to say is if they were telling Jacoby, hey, we're having a real competition, then they needed to split the reps. I don't actually disagree with how they did things, where it's like, look, if Sam falls on his face, Jacoby's right there.
But then
if Jacoby is overwhelmingly brilliant, then we'll leapfrog him. But Sam's going to get every opportunity. And by the way, we're pretty sure he's good enough based off what we know that he's going to win this opportunity. So we need to make sure we prepare him by giving him all the starters reps. What I can't possibly begin to defend is what they did with those reps.
Well, yeah.
And that's like, those are all things that like you could change. You could change any part of that and get a better result. It's hard to get a worse one. You could have used Sam in a smarter way. You could have had a real competition that Jacoby probably would have won and run a similar offense, and it would have been better. But at the end of the day, I actually don't think the way it went down long term is good is bad for the franchise. They didn't mess around and go 9-8 with Brissett and sniff the playoffs and convince themselves they're close. They won 4 games, have the second overall pick, just recruited arguably the best GM candidate in the league, and we'll see what they do at head coach. And part of the reason the guy came is because he got a blank slate, no commitment to any quarterback, and the number 2 pick to fill it. So ultimately, going for broke was the right move.
Hindsight.
But the way they went about it, if they were actually trying to win games, is pretty good evidence that Ron Rivera shouldn't be here anymore, which is why he's not.
And there's just crumbs that have been dropped over the months that like let us know that like we were fed a complete load of garbage. There's never a quarterback competition. It never happened. Jacoby, the first second he got to take the podium, went up there and said, yeah, I was told I was going to get to compete.
Right.
Maybe that's why his hamstring all of a sudden got hurt. Maybe it was a punishment to Jacoby for going up there and spilling the tea. Because there's no way, and I understand he's a good veteran, he's been around the league, and he's a good teammate. But if I signed a contract somewhere and they guaranteed I get to compete and I go into camp and I'm taking 0 reps, he's more of a professional than I am.
I'm not defending that from Jacoby's.
I would have raised hell.
Yeah, I'm not defending that from Jacoby's perspective at all. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And by the way, is for all the talk about good guy Rivera.
Con man.
Character, I won't go that far, but is on character with how his tenure went in many ways. So definitely, like I think that there is something to how many people in the building were like, they were like, oh, Ron should stay, but like how many people were like, he was a good man. Like when people work that closely with someone and universally, and the players are all like, good man, even if there's other stuff that I look at and I'm like, that's pretty crappy. I have to defer to the people that interacted with him on that kind of intimate daily basis. On some level, can still call out the bad behavior.
For sure.
But that absolutely is an indefensible thing to do to Jacoby Brissett. And it was pretty clear the second he got to the podium on that day.
That was the first thing. And normally guys will be like, I'll take the high road and be like, yeah, I knew what I signed up for. I knew it was a young quarterback. Nah, Jacoby completely ripped the Band-Aid off and said, yeah, I'm just as surprised as you guys were.
Yep. Which was something. All right, what's your schedule for the rest of the week? Where can people get more of your takes?
You can get me Friday, 6:30 to 10 p.m., overtime on 106.7, and then Saturday, a little mini announcement on the Hoffman Show. I'll make my national radio debut. We got CBS Sports Radio, 5 to 10 on Saturday. You can hear me in the DMV from, I believe, 5:45 to 7. That's when I'm on locally here, but
nice.
Check your local listings, people.
Congratulations. You can listen to CBS Sports Radio anytime, anywhere on the free Odyssey app. So check out Lynnell there. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, my friend.
That is fantastic.
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.